Greetings. Welcome back to another Christian News and Views. This is episode 2658, and this is Bible Talk. Now, this week, every day, I've been doing a Bible Talk. Um, we'll get back to the normal things next week, but I wanted to really emphasize this is a very important week. It's the week for the crucifixion, and we're looking at the possibility of the crucifixion taking place on a Wednesday, and today is Wednesday, rather than Friday. And one of the pivotal things about this, well, there's more than one. One is you can't possibly get 3 whole days and 3 whole nights between Friday and Sunday. No, it just doesn't work. Some people try to do it by partial. And they'll even use scripture because there are points in the Bible where a day only means a part of a day. They considered it that day when they're doing their counting. But in the case of the crucifixion, Jesus himself laid down the foundation. We're not going to get into it. I've covered that twice now. But in the book of Jonah, the term 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, that was literally 3 whole days and 3 whole nights. Now, the important thing is that later on, Jesus pointed right to that, right to Jonah being 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the whale. And he says, the Son of Man is going to be in the ground, in the grave, 3 days and 3 nights. So he tied them together. So people tend to look at back then, we use today's calendar, which doesn't really work, not for then. Then you look at the Hebrew calendars, and you still have some difficulties. But it was when they uncovered the Dead Sea Scrolls, they had a lot of things they learned, and some things that they assumed are not all that correct. I would say that. This is a sect that was not, it was very influential, but it was, how would you say this? It wasn't mainline. It wasn't mainstream. So I want to get into looking at like this group of people called the Essenes, Essenes, and see how they influenced and the times that this was actually in the times of Christ. So the readers of the New Testament are familiar with two of the main religious groups of Jesus' day, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. I had a pastor one time that he explained, if you want to know what they stood for, the Pharisees were fair, you see, in their look at doctrine and things of this nature. The Sadducees were sad, you see. Now, if you can remember those two phrases, it's easy to remember the names of the groups. Pharisees were fair, you see, or I see. If I'm saying it, would be they're fair, I see. And the Sadducees are sad, you see. But the point there is that there were just two groups. And the religious temple's religious leaders included these two groups. And Jesus harshly criticized their misunderstanding of the scriptures and their outward piety. While their hearts were full of greed and selfishness. The Zealots are also mentioned, but that was not an important group as far as they were religiously motivated, but that was more of a political designation for those fiercely nationalistic Jews who favored direct and violent opposition to Roman occupation, not strictly a religious sect. Their religious beliefs were in agreement with the Pharisees. The Essenes, or Essenes, however you want to pronounce it, were another Jewish group described by first-century Jewish writers Philo and Flavius Josephus. Most people today know the Essenes as a mysterious sect that had inhabited Qumran. the desert community east of Jerusalem where the Dead Sea Scrolls were first discovered. According to Josephus, however, in his day, Judaism in Israel was actually made up of three main sects: the Pharisees, Sadducees, and the Essenes. The term Essene is not used in the Bible, but this is not because they were insignificant. Josephus wrote that the Essenes had no one city of their own. Rather, many of them lived in every city. And you can find that in his book, Josephus, and the section called Wars 2, and I believe it's 124. However, Pliny, the elder, states that En Gedi was below the Essene headquarters on the western shore of the Dead Sea. That's found in, I think it's a magazine, Natural History 573, which fits the site of Qumran. Now, when facing these Holy Week difficulties, the author that I've been reading had run across the idea that perhaps the crucifixion and burial of Jesus did not happen on Friday, but on Thursday or Wednesday. After all, there were two Sabbaths during this week: the weekly seventh-day Sabbath on Saturday and the high holy day of Passover. The high feast days were also considered Sabbaths when no ordinary work was done. That's found in Leviticus chapter 23. This would explain some of the confusion and might even give enough time for Jesus to be in the tomb 3 days and nights as he had promised. Aside from the calendar, let's consider the cross, considered by experts to be the worst possible combination of torture and death ever invented by man. It went from being the cross of shame to becoming the cross of flame. It was glorified forever as the means of our salvation. The cross itself was started by the Persians, adopted and refined by the Romans, and brought to Israel just a little while before Jesus' birth. As far as the Jews were concerned, it was a relatively new thing, and yet it is described in the 22nd Psalm. Now, one of the things is that I wanted to verify here is that the Essenes had a calendar. And it was that calendar that gives the whole idea of the 2 Sabbaths, and they landed on the Passover Sabbath, landed on Thursday. So that rules out Friday. Also rules out Thursday. But Wednesday is the day before Thursday by any record I've ever seen. And in any case, that is why more and more people are believing that the actual crucifixion took place on Wednesday. And it just meant that you could literally call it Good Wednesday if you wanted to. That was when he was crucified. And if you remember, he had all three of those being crucified, there were 3 of them, Jesus in the middle and a thief on either side. All 3 had to be dead and buried by sunset, somewhere around 6 p.m. And so that is because their days started, the new day would start at 6 or sunset. So the whole thing is that the calendar that was this, you could call it the 3rd calendar, I guess. That was the one that was used by Jesus and his family, his disciples, and everything. And we won't get into all that, but the tomb, the whole thing was governed by even how he talked was governed by that Essene calendar. Now, that does not mean he was an Essene. He was aware of them. Most Jews probably were aware of them. But the whole thing is that the Essene calendar was very pivotal in the understanding, because this is what, again, like I said, this is what influenced him. This is what the calendar he apparently went by most of the time. So what we want to know is what did that calendar say? And that calendar pointed to or points to Wednesday. And so tomorrow we're going to be looking more into the subject. And I'll give you a little peek here in just a minute what that's going to be. Let's see. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at the Passover itself, what the Passover was look as, because tomorrow was Thursday, and therefore that was when the Passover took place. So we're going to be looking at this. Yeah, we'll be looking at this and what Christ was doing at that time. And on Friday, we'll look up and we'll be talking about Good Friday. I am not here to try to turn you away from Good Friday. If you prefer Good Friday, like to talk, that's when you like to go to church and to worship Him and honor what He did. Fine. It's just like we celebrate Christmas. We know that He was not born on Christmas Day, but we celebrate Christmas, celebrate His birth on Christmas. It's a tradition, and tradition has its place. But we should also want to know the facts. The more facts we know, the more meaningful that particular holiday is, no matter when you celebrate it. So, well, I think that we have pretty well established that Wednesday is the day that He was crucified. The calendar itself, I don't have a copy of that calendar, but that calendar was, when you understand it, it's the one in which Jesus Himself and the others used. It was part of their life. Why they chose that calendar or another, that's, you'll have to ask God about that when you get there. You can speculate, but we're not. That's what I'm not here to do today. I'm not going to speculate as to why, other than the fact that they did. And that seems to be well established, not by me, but by others. And so, that being the case, I think that we have to accept the fact that Jesus was crucified on Friday, the day before the Passover, a high Sabbath. So I'll see, hopefully that has been informative to you, encouraging, and maybe even inspirational. And I would even encourage you to check it out further. Yeah, you can Google it. Just remember, check out who you're going to. If it's AI, you might want to verify what the sources are that they're quoting. Always check and verify. But hopefully this makes this week a little bit more special to you. It does to me. Just doing the studying and doing these talks have been rewarding to me. And so I encourage you to continue to watch, and I look forward to seeing your comments. Well, this is sponsored by T&R Independent Books, a Christian indie publisher. We not only carry books, we teach you how to write, and we will publish you. You're a Christian, and you have something to say, and we're interested in you. And who knows? We just might like what you have to say, what you want to write, and want to be your publisher. Give us a shot. You can find us at trbookservices.com. We're in the bookstore under the writing department. Well, you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.